The colony ship Bright Tomorrow moved slowly through the darkness of space. Inside its metal walls, 3,000 humans dreamed of a new home. They had left Earth 6 months ago, carrying with them everything. They needed to build a life on a distant world called Haven 4. Among these travelers were 847 children. Dr. Yunhana walked through the ship's medical bay, checking on her young patients. A boy named Deary had caught a small cold, nothing serious. She gave him medicine and told him a story about brave explorers. He smiled and asked if he could be an explorer too. She told him he already was, in another part of the galaxy. Admiral Kung Deho sat in his office on Earth's military station. He was an old man now with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years protecting humanity, first as a soldier, then as a commander. Now he mostly pushed papers and attended meetings with aliens who looked down on humans like they were insects. His daughter, Sumin, was on the Bright Tomorrow. So were his 2 grandchildren, a girl of 9 and a boy of 6. He had spoken to them just yesterday through a video call. His granddaughter had shown him a drawing she made of their new home. Green hills, blue sky, a small house with flowers. He had promised to visit them once they settled. The Galactic Assembly had allowed humans to join their community just 20 years ago, but they never treated humans as equals. To them, humans were young, emotional, and weak. Good for simple work, but not important enough to respect. Humans accepted this treatment because they had no choice. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was small. Captain Park J commanded the defense ship Silent Moon. His job was to escort colony vessels through dangerous space. He was young for a captain, only 32, but he had proven himself many times. Today, he was 3 days away from the Bright Tomorrow, heading to meet them at the border. He would never arrive in time. The Vec Dominion had watched humanity for years. They were a proud species, rulers of 60 star systems, and they did not like what they saw. Humans bred fast. Humans spread fast. Humans asked too many questions and learned too quickly. The Vec decided that humanity needed a lesson, a message written in blood that would keep them small and afraid forever. 12. Vec warships appeared around the Bright Tomorrow without warning. The colony ship had no real weapons. It was built for families, not for war. The captain sent out distress signals, but help was too far away. The Vec commander opened a channel. His face appeared on every screen in the ship. He did not look angry or cruel. He looked bored, like this was just another task to complete before dinner. "Human vessel," he said. "You have entered space that belongs to the Vec Dominion. This is a violation. The punishment is death," the human captain begged. He explained that they had permission from the Galactic Assembly. He showed them the documents, the approved route, everything. He offered to turn back. He offered to surrender. He asked them to at least let the children go. The Vec commander ended the transmission in the medical bay. Dr. Yunhana gathered the children together. She knew what was coming. The ship shook as the first weapons hit. Lights flickered. Children cried. She held them close and told them to sing with her. It was an old lullaby, one that mothers on Earth had sung for hundreds of years. "Close your eyes, little star. Dream of home, near or far." The children sang. Their small voices filled the medical bay as the walls cracked and fire spread through the ship. Dr. Yunhana opened a channel, sending one final message to anyone who would listen. She did not scream or cry. She simply held the transmitter close, so the galaxy could hear the children singing. Then the Bright Tomorrow exploded. The Vec recorded everything. They broadcast the destruction to every human colony, every human station, every corner of space where humans lived. They wanted humanity to see. They wanted humanity to understand their place in the galaxy. They expected crying, panic, and despair. Admiral Kong Deho received the message in his office. He watched the video in silence. He saw the ship break apart. He heard his granddaughter's voice in the lullaby singing until the sound cut to static. For a long moment, he did not move. He did not breathe. Then he stood up, walked to his window, and looked out at the stars. His aide rushed in, asking what they should do. The admiral did not answer. He simply picked up his communication device and sent one message to every human leader in the galaxy. 7 days. Tell no one anything. Go dark. Earth received the news. Cities that never slept went quiet. Factories stopped their machines. Ships returned to port. For the first time in human history, every single human stopped what they were doing at the same moment. The galaxy watched and waited for the reaction. They expected riots in the streets. They expected desperate attacks. They expected humans to fall apart like all weak species did when faced with tragedy. Instead, they got silence. No transmissions left Earth. No messages came from human colonies. Every channel went dead. The Galactic Assembly sent diplomats to check on humanity, but no one answered their calls. For 7 days, humanity simply disappeared from the galactic conversation. The Vec commander who ordered the attack celebrated with his officers. They laughed about how easy it had been. Humans were even weaker than they thought. But one old alien, member of a species that had lived for 10,000 years, watched the human silence with growing fear. He had seen many civilizations rise and fall. He knew what loud grief looked like. He also knew what quiet grief looked like. They're not broken, he whispered to himself. They are deciding. On Earth, in a bunker deep below the ground, Admiral Kong Dae-ho sat with the leaders of humanity. His eyes were dry. His hands were steady. When he spoke, his voice was calm. They killed our children, he said. Now we show them what that means. The 7 days of silence were not about mourning. They were about preparation. And when they ended, the galaxy would learn why humanity should never have been underestimated. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, the leaders of humanity gathered in a room that officially did not exist. General O Taeyong stood at the head of the table, his face showing no emotion. Around him sat admirals, scientists, engineers, and politicians. They had not slept in 3 days. On the wall, a screen showed the faces of 847 children. The youngest was 2 years old. The oldest was 17. Their names scrolled slowly beneath their pictures. No one in the room could look away. The galaxy thinks we are mourning, General O said. Let them think that. While they wait for us to cry, we will prepare. Admiral Kong Dae-ho sat in the corner, silent. He had not spoken much since watching his grandchildren die. But when the general asked for his thoughts, he stood up and walked to the front of the room. 20 years ago, we joined the Galactic Assembly, he said. They made us sign treaties. No advanced weapons. No fast ships. No military expansion. They told us it was for peace. We know now it was to keep us weak. He pressed a button, and the children's faces disappeared. In their place appeared blueprints, designs, and technical drawings that made several people in the room gasp. We followed their rules in public, the admiral continued, but we never stopped preparing in private. Engineer Beek Woo stepped forward. He was a small man with thick glasses and nervous hands, but his voice was steady when he spoke. Project Titan, he said. For 15 years, my team has built weapons the galaxy does not know we have. Ships faster than anything the Vec possess. Guns that can crack a planet. Defense systems that can stop any attack. We hid them in asteroids, in moons, in places no one would think to look. A young officer raised his hand. Why did we never use them? General O answered. Because we hoped we would never need to. We wanted peace. We wanted to raise our children without war. His voice cracked slightly on the word children. That hope died with the bright tomorrow. Outside the bunker, across every human world, people were not sitting idle. Factories that made farming equipment now made weapons. Shipyards that built cargo vessels now built warships. Schools became training centers. Hospitals became military bases. Shin Mina stood in line at a recruitment office in Seoul. She was 43 years old, schoolteacher with gentle hands and a soft voice. Her son Junwoo had been 7 years old. He had been on the bright tomorrow because she wanted him. To grow up on a new world with clean air and open fields. The officer at the desk looked at her file. You have no military experience, he said. Why do you want to join? Shin Mina placed a photo on the desk. A small boy with a big smile, holding a toy spaceship. I am not here for revenge, she said. I am here so no other mother has to feel what I feel. I am here to protect the children who are still alive. The officer stamped her papers. Welcome to the service. Millions of volunteers like her joined in those 7 days. Old men who had fought wars long ago, young women who had never held a gun, scientists who wanted to help, doctors who wanted to save lives. Humanity did not scream or riot. They simply stood up, together, and got to work. The Galactic Assembly grew worried by the silence. They sent a delegation to Earth, expecting to negotiate a surrender. The aliens arrived at Earth's space station with gifts and empty words of comfort. Ambassador Choi Yoon met them at the door. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had spent 30 years talking to aliens, smiling at their insults, accepting their disrespect. Today she did not smile. You're sorry for your loss, the lead alien said. The VEC acted without assembly approval. We are prepared to offer compensation. Ambassador Choi tilted her head. Compensation. Yes. Economic benefits. Trade agreements. Perhaps even a better colony world than Haven 4. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button, and the sound of children singing filled the room. Close your eyes, little star. Dream of home, near or far. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. The song played until the static at the end, where the transmission had died with the ship. That is the last sound our children made, Ambassador Choi said. Take this recording back to your assembly. Tell them we received their offer. The aliens waited for more. For demands? For threats? For negotiations? That is all, the ambassador said. You may leave now. The delegation returned to the assembly with confused reports. The humans had not surrendered. They had not attacked. They had not done anything the aliens expected. The assembly debated what this meant. Some thought humanity had accepted defeat. Others were not so sure. On the 7th day, Admiral Kong Daeho stood on the bridge of his new flagship. It was called the Eternal Memory, and it was unlike any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Around him, a fleet of 200 vessels waited in the darkness between stars. General, O's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, are you ready? Kong looked at a small picture attached to his control panel. His granddaughter's drawing of her dream home. Green hills, blue sky, a small house with flowers. She would never see it now. I am ready, he said. At exactly midnight Earth time, every communication channel in the galaxy received a transmission. It began with the lullaby sung by a child's voice. Then came Admiral Kong's words, spoken slowly and clearly so every species could understand. To the Vec Dominion and all who stood by while our children died, you thought our love for our young made us weak. You thought grief would break us. You were wrong. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was ice. You killed our children. Now meet their parents. The 7 days of silence ended. The war had begun. The Vec Dominion had ruled 60 star systems for 3,000 years. They had crushed rebellions, conquered empires, and never lost a war. When they heard humanity's message, they laughed Commander Toreth. The alien who had ordered the destruction of the bright tomorrow sat in his command center eating dinner. His officers showed him reports of human ships gathering at the border. He barely looked up from his food. How many ships? He asked. 200, Commander. Toreth smiled. We have 4,000 ships in our border fleet alone. Let them come. We will teach them another lesson. He expected the humans to attack the nearest Vec colony, a heavily defended world called Vec Prime 7. Every military expert in the galaxy would have predicted the same thing. It was the obvious target. Admiral Kong Daeho did not attack VAK-Prime-7. Instead, the human fleet appeared suddenly at Vec Primd, a supply station that fed fuel and food to the entire Vec border defense. No one had thought to protect it heavily. Why would anyone attack a supply station? The Vec defenders sent out distress calls. They reported that human ships moved faster than anything they had ever seen. The engines burned with a strange blue light, crossing distances in minutes that should have taken hours. "That is impossible," Commander Torith said when he received the report. "Our intelligence said human ships are slow. The supply station fell in 2 hours." Without fuel, the Vec border fleet could not move quickly. Without food, they could not fight long. In one strike, Admiral Kang had crippled the entire defensive line without facing the enemy's main force. Captain Park J led the ground teams. He had been 3 days away from the bright tomorrow when it died. 3 days too late to save anyone? He had not slept well since then. Now he moved through the captured station, securing prisoners and gathering information. A young Vex soldier surrendered to him, shaking with fear. "Please," the alien said. "I had nothing to do with the attack on your colony ship. I am just a guard." Captain Park looked at him for a long moment. Then he lowered his weapon. "You will be treated fairly," he said. "We do not kill those who surrender. We are not like you." News of the human attacks spread through the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly called emergency meetings. The Vec demanded assistance from their allies. But something strange was happening. Species that had been neutral began to change their minds. A race called the Norin had been enslaved by the Vec for centuries. When they saw humans taking Vec prisoners instead of killing them, they started asking questions. If humans were truly monsters, why were they showing mercy? Commander Torith gathered his main fleet and moved to crush the human invasion. He had 2,000 ships against the human 200. The math was simple. The humans would be destroyed. The two fleets met in the space above a moon called Grey's Sister. Torith ordered his ships into standard attack formation, a pattern that had won the Vec every battle for 1,000 years. Admiral Kong did not use any formation the galaxy recognized. Human ships scattered like leaves in wind, moving in patterns that seemed random but were perfectly coordinated. They struck at weak points, retreated before counterattacks could land, and appeared in places the Vec never expected. Vec commanders shouted confused orders. Their ships crashed into each other, trying to chase enemies that moved too fast to follow in 6 hours. The Vec lost 400 ships. The humans lost 12. Commander Torith stared at his tactical display, unable to understand what he was seeing. His officers looked to him for guidance, but he had none to give. Everything he knew about war was useless against these humans. He whispered, "They are supposed to be primitive." An old Vec admiral, one who had fought many species over his long life, spoke quietly. "They were never primitive, Commander. They were hiding, waiting, learning, and now they are very, very angry." Captain Park J led a strike team to capture a Vec communications hub. Inside, they found something that changed everything. The Vec had recorded their destruction of the bright tomorrow in detail. Not just the attack itself, but the celebration afterward. Video files showed Vec officers laughing as the ship exploded. Audio recordings captured them, making jokes about human children. One commander had kept a piece of the destroyed ship as a trophy captain. Park broadcast these files to every world in the galaxy. The reaction was immediate. Species that had supported the Vec now condemned them publicly. Trade agreements were canceled. Diplomatic ties were cut. Even the Galactic Assembly, which had done nothing to help humanity, issued a statement calling the Vec actions regrettable. Commander Torith sent a message to the Assembly. "We need help," he said. "Send reinforcements." "The humans are not what we thought." The Assembly debated for 3 days. By the time they decided to respond, humanity had taken 4 more Vec systems. Each time, human soldiers protected civilians, fed the hungry, and freed the slaves the Vec had kept. Word spread among the conquered peoples that these strange, soft creatures from Earth were not conquerors. They were liberators. Admiral Kong stood on the bridge of the Eternal Memory, watching another Vec military station burn. An officer approached him with a question. "Admiral, the station is surrendering. Should we accept?" Kong thought of his grandchildren. He thought of 847 small bodies floating in the cold of space. He thought of the video he had seen of Vec officers laughing while children died. Did they accept our surrender? He asked quietly. The officer was silent. Military targets only, the admiral finally said. Destroy the station. But any escape pods with crew, we take as prisoners. We are not them. The station exploded. The escape pods were collected. The humans moved on to their next target. Somewhere in the galaxy, Commander Toreth received reports of each defeat. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. 3 months had passed since the war began. The Vec Dominion, which had ruled 60 star systems, now controlled only 31. Every day brought news of another defeat, another retreat, another system lost to the advancing humans. The Galactic Assembly met in their Great Hall, a room built to hold representatives from 1,000 species. Today, most seats were empty. No one wanted to be seen too close to either side of this war. Ambassador Choi Yoon stood at the speaking platform. She was the same small woman with gray hair who had sent the Vec diplomats away with only a lullaby. Now she spoke to the entire galaxy. We did not want this war, she said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the hall. 20 years ago, we came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found masters instead. We accepted your rules. We followed your laws. We asked only to live in peace and raise our children. She paused, and the silence was heavy. You answered us with murder. You killed 847 children and expected us to thank you for the lesson. You thought our love for our young made us weak. Ambassador Choi looked directly at the Vec representative, who could not meet her eyes. You were wrong. The Assembly offered to negotiate peace. They would punish the Vec, they said. They would give humanity full member status, voting rights, everything they had been denied. They would even pay for new colony ships. Ambassador Choi listened politely. Then she gave humanity's response. We do not want your membership. We do not want your money. We want only one thing. Give us everyone who ordered the attack on the bright tomorrow. Give us everyone who celebrated when our children died. Give us Commander Toreth and his officers. Then this war ends. The Vec representative stood up in anger. We will never surrender our commanders to human justice. Ambassador Choi simply nodded. Then we will come and get them ourselves. Far from the assembly, pilot Yuneri climbed into her fighter ship. She was 26 years old, with short hair and steady hands. On the side of her ship, she had written a name in white paint. Her brother Sung-ho had been 16 years old, traveling to Havenfor to start university. He had wanted to study stars she had added to that name after every battle. Now 37 ships were marked beneath it, 37 Vec vessels she had destroyed. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Today, her squadron had a special mission. Intelligence had located the Vec's primary shipyard, a massive station where they built their warships. The galaxy believed it was impossible to attack. It was defended by automated weapons, shield systems, and 500 patrol ships. Squadron ready, Nari said into her communicator. Admiral Kong's voice came back. Remember your training. Trust your wingman. Come home alive. The attack began at dawn, station time. Human fighters appeared from the darkness like ghosts, moving through gaps in the defense grid that should not have existed. Engineers back on Earth had spent months studying Vec technology, finding weaknesses no one else had noticed. Yuneri flew through a storm of enemy fire, her ship spinning and diving in ways that should have been impossible. The humans had modified their fighters with technology they had kept secret for years. They could turn faster, accelerate harder, and survive damage that would destroy any other ship. The shipyard's shield generator was her target. It was buried deep inside the station, protected by 3 layers of armor. Her fighter carried a single special weapon, something Engineer Beak Wu had designed in the bunkers under Earth. She fired. The weapon punched through the armor like it was paper. The shield generator exploded. The station's defenses flickered and died. Within minutes, human bombers followed through the gap, destroying construction bays and supply lines. The shipyard, which the Vec had spent 200 years building, burned. News of the attack reached Commander Toreth on his flagship. He had been running for weeks now, moving from system to system, trying to escape the humans who followed him like shadows. Every ship he boarded became a target. Every station he visited was attacked days later. "They are tracking me," he said to his officers. "Somehow they always know where I am." He was right. Human intelligence had placed spies among the freed slave species. The Norin, the Kashi, the 12 Moons people, all of them now reported Vec's movements to Earth. The species the Vec had conquered and mistreated for centuries were happy to help the humans, who had freed them. Commander Torith tried to flee to neutral space, where the Galactic Assembly protected all travelers. His ship was intercepted at the border. It was Captain Park J who stopped him. "Commander Torith," Captain Park said through the communicator, "by order of the United Earth Council, you are wanted for crimes against humanity. Surrender your ship and face justice." Torith laughed, though there was no humor in it. "Justice? You call this justice? You have destroyed half our civilization. You destroyed our children," Captain Park replied. "We have destroyed only your military. Your cities still stand. Your civilians still live. That is the difference between us." Back at the Galactic Assembly, the eldest member of the Council, a being called the Keeper who had lived for 12,000 years, watched the reports with growing understanding. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched young species become great powers and old powers crumble to dust. He called the other council members to a private meeting. "We made a terrible mistake," he said. "We thought humans were children playing at civilization. We let the Vec attack them because we believed it would keep them small and controllable." "What are they then?" a young representative asked. The Keeper was quiet for a long moment. "They're what happens when you hurt something a parent loves," he finally said. "They are not fighting for territory or power or pride. They are fighting because we touched their young, and they will never, ever stop until they have what they came for." The council members looked at each other in silence. For the first time in 1,000 years, the great powers of the galaxy were afraid, and the humans were still coming. The human fleet surrounded the Vec homeworld like a ring of steel. 500 ships hung in the darkness, their weapons pointed at a planet that held 8 billion lives. This was the heart of the Vec Dominion, the world that had sent Commander Torath to murder children. Now it waited for its judgment. Admiral Kungdeho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Memory, looking down at the blue and green planet below. It looked peaceful from up here, beautiful even. He thought about how the bright tomorrow must have looked before the Vec destroyed it. General Oteong's face appeared on the communication screen. The old general looked tired. They all looked tired now. "The Vec government has surrendered," General O said. "Commander Torith and 47 officers who participated in the massacre are in our custody. The war is over, Admiral." Admiral Kong did not respond immediately. His officers watched him, waiting. "The galaxy expects us to destroy them," he finally said. "Every species watching thinks we will burn their world as they burned our ship. It is what they would do." "Yes," General O agreed. "It is what they expect." The Admiral looked at the picture still attached to his control panel, his granddaughter's drawing. Green hills, blue sky, a small house with flowers. She had been so excited about her new home. She had made that drawing to show him what she would build someday. "My granddaughter was kind," he said quietly. "She cried when other children were sad. She shared her food with anyone who was hungry. She would have hated this war. She would have hated what I have become." He turned to face his crew. "We are not monsters. We are not what they tried to make us. If we destroy their world, we prove them right about humanity. We become exactly what they feared." The order went out to the fleet. The Vec military would be destroyed. Their leaders would face trial. But the civilians, the 8 billion beings who had no part in the decision to kill children, would live. Human soldiers would occupy the planet peacefully. They would bring food, medicine, and order. They would show the galaxy what justice looked like when it came from parents who had lost everything the Vec could not understand. They waited for bombs that never fell. They hid from soldiers who offered them water instead of weapons. They had been raised to believe that power meant cruelty, that victory meant destruction. Humanity taught them a different lesson. Shinmina landed on the Vec homeworld with the first wave of occupation forces. She was 53 now, older than when she had joined the military, with new scars and gray in her hair. She carried a photo of her son in her pocket everywhere she went. A young Vec child approached her in the street, clearly lost and frightened. He was small, with big eyes that reminded her of Junwoo at that age. She knelt down to meet his gaze. "Where is your mother?" she asked through the translator. The child pointed toward a damaged building. Shinmina took his hand and walked him there. They found his mother crying in the ruins of her home, certain her son was dead. When she saw him alive, holding the hand of a human soldier, she collapsed in tears. "Why?" the Vec mother asked. "Why would you help us?" "We killed your children." Shinmina looked at her for a long moment. "Your leaders killed our children," she said. "You are just a mother, like me. I will not make your child grow up without you." Stories like this spread across the Vec world and beyond. The humans who had fought like demons showed kindness to the defeated. They rebuilt what they had destroyed. They healed who they had hurt. The galaxy watched in confusion. The trial of Commander Torith was broadcast to every world. He sat in a simple room, facing judges from Earth and representatives from the species the Vec had enslaved. The evidence against him was clear. The recordings of the attack, the celebrations afterward, the trophies taken from the dead ship. Shinmina was asked to speak. She stood before the court, her son's photo in her hand. "This is Junwoo," she said. He was 7 years old. He wanted to be an explorer when he grew up. He was afraid of the dark, but pretended not to be because he wanted to be brave. She looked at Commander Torith, who could not meet her eyes. "I do not want you to die," she said. "Death is too quick. It's too easy. I want you to live a long life in a cell. I want you to wake up every morning and remember my son's face. I want you to grow old knowing what you did and knowing you can never undo it." Commander Torith was sentenced to life imprisonment, along with every officer who had participated in the massacre. Not death, life. A lifetime to remember. Ambassador Cho Yoon addressed the Galactic Assembly one final time. "Humanity accepts your offer of full membership," she said. "We will join your council. We will follow your laws. We will be good neighbors in this galaxy." She paused, and when she continued, her voice was harder than steel. "But remember this. We have shown you mercy today. We had the power to destroy the Vec and chose not to. We had the right to revenge and chose justice instead. We did this not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to be kind." She leaned forward. "Touch our children again. There will be no trial." The assembly was silent. 10 years later, Admiral Kang Daeho, now retired, visited a memorial garden on Earth. 847 statues stood in a circle, each one carved to look like a child playing. In the center was a fountain, and carved into its stone base were words that every human knew by heart. They thought our love made us weak. They learned our love makes us eternal. The Admiral walked slowly through the garden until he found her. His granddaughter's statue, frozen forever at 9 years old, reaching up as if trying to catch a butterfly. He placed a small flower at her feet. "We did it," he whispered. "We showed them who we really are." Above the garden, human ships crossed the sky, guardians of a species that would never forget, never stop protecting its young, and never become the monsters others expected them to be. The lullaby played softly from speakers hidden in the trees. "Close your eyes, little star. Dream of home, near or far, and somewhere in a cell on a distant world." Commander Torith heard it too. He would hear it every day for the rest of his long, long life.